We have at the top we have Target, which I think everybody is familiar with. In December, it was reported that they had managed to lose 40 million credit cards and debit cards worth of information. By January, that number had risen to 70 million. In the middle, on December 21st, which in retail is a pretty significant day, JP Morgan Chase, which is a big bank, said, you know what, if you've ever shopped at Target, we're limiting you to $300 in spending and $100 in ATM withdrawals for the foreseeable future. So hopefully those people bought their holiday presents early, because they certainly weren't going to buy any big presents with those kinds of restrictions on their credit cards and debit cards. Adobe lost some data. Nobody's entirely certain how many. They started out by admitting that they lost 3 million usernames and passwords and associated information. That number pretty quickly grew to 38 million, and the most recent estimate is well over 100 million, could be as high as 150 million. Why are they so exposed? Because they decided to deliver their software over the cloud. They decided it would be better, instead of having you buy a box, to subscribe online. Subscribe online, give us your user information, and then we will lose it all. Photoshop, it's a pretty widely used program. But the worst, of course, are these three gentlemen who are bending over here looking like they're about to be beheaded. They aren't. They're just offering a very public apology from the Korean Credit Bureau. They are the heads of the three major institutions that make up the Korean Credit Bureau, offering their resignations, one of whom was immediately taken up on that offer, because an employee had gone into work every day and started downloading information, credit card information, social security numbers, phone numbers, and associated identification, including expiry dates on those credit cards, downloaded a little bit every day for 11 months. South Korea is a country of 50 million people. It has the highest penetration of credit cards of any country on earth. 20 million, or 40% of their population's credit card information was disclosed to this one employee with a thumb drive over an 11-month period. So, I mean, there's a pattern in here, and this terrific illustration, this is a static screenshot from the really excellent Information is Beautiful website, and I'd urge you to go back and play with it. The bubbles change and give you more information now. But this illustration helps to explain the pattern that's kind of lost in those last slides with all of the movies now. We see by the color of the dots what the cause of the breach was. Was the data accidentally published, like it was in Texas? Were the companies hacked, like TJ Maxx? Was it an inside job, like the Data Valdez at AOL? Did you lose a computer or media, or did you just generally have poor security? The size of the bubble represents the magnitude of the breach. And if we look at this year, we see that the bubbles are starting to become more numerous. And then if we move ahead to 2010 and 2013, we see a couple of really important things. One is the white space is gone. The number of hacks and breaches and the size of those hacks and breaches continues to get larger as we have more and more connected systems offering more and more data to be stolen. The other thing is that the color red begins to predominate, because as we have more data, as we have more connected systems, we have more incentive for the bad guys to break in and steal that data. We still have accidental releases and lost and stolen media, but hacks become a much more significant problem. According to McKinsey, in a really good report that I'd urge you to read, and that I'll reference a little later on, what this shows is that defenders are losing ground to attackers, and they've polled some of their clients as saying 80% of their executives say they can't keep pace. In an interview that we did, that Mary did, with John McClurg of Insight as a Service, again, I'd urge you to come to our site and read that. I'm sure you all spend days on our site anyway, but if you don't, come and read this anyway. From John McClurg, who's the CSO for Dell, he said, it doesn't matter if you're small or large. It's not a matter of if you're going to be compromised, it's when. Those of you who were in the last session heard that 91% of companies know they've had some sort of compromise already. And you know, one of the important points that John made in the conversation was that, you know, many small companies and even large companies depend on security through obscurity. They depend on the fact that they're too small and too insignificant to be a target for hackers. But the more connected the economy gets, the more connected suppliers and customers become, the more every company, every user becomes an on-ramp to a potentially valuable source of data. Let me try to move on to just looking at our recommendations, Insight as a Services recommendations, for building cyber resilience into your business and to promoting the business benefit of security within that business. We believe that there are 4 levels of cyber defense. The first is to harden the perimeter, to use products like, if you were in the last session, the Sonic Wall products, to use security built into devices and applications themselves to try to make it difficult for intruders to get into your network. The next layer is to secure the data that's at rest. So we're securing data in motion, now we're trying to secure it at rest through encryption. The third layer is to make sure that you take steps to safeguard against employee vulnerabilities. These come in 2 flavors. You have inadvertent disclosures, like the guy in Texas who probably didn't mean to draw lots of political fire for inadvertently disclosing 6.5 million voting Texans worth of information. And you have malicious, like the fellow with the Korean Credit Bureau, employees who are stealing data from inside. And then lastly, apply intelligence widely in the security process. Things like the SecureWorks product from Dell that give you the ability to learn about and intercept threats as they come at you. And if you were here for Alan's presentation, it gives him the ability to take quite a lot of potential incidents, bring it down to a manageable number of incidents that require further investigation and action. And then one key is integration within the layers, across the layers, and very importantly with your business processes and applications. So it's important not to leave gaps within any one layer of these 4 layers of shields. It's important not to leave gaps between the layers of these shields so that there aren't openings for intruders to get through. And it's important to link all of this meaningfully to the development of the business systems that your company is deploying everywhere in the organization and will increasingly deploy everywhere in the organization to make sure that security is enabling that progress and defending the CEO and the board and the shareholders against the negative fallout, rather than acting as a brake, an afterthought to the progress of those applications. In our interview with John McClure, he actually had 3 points that roughly correspond to this. One is focus on the data in his words, or in a rough paraphrase of his words. If an intruder gets through this hardened perimeter, make sure that what they get is a mouthful of untasty encrypted data. Don't let them get at, as was the case of the RockU, unencrypted passwords in plain text. Make sure that they have to work further to get any benefit from the data that they're stealing. Don't underestimate the porousness of traditional boundaries, either between systems at a particular layer or in between layers, and pay attention to employees, both the inadvertent and malicious potential threat sources.